When did someone challenge you at something you were an expert at? Kinda the reverse. For me, I'm a physical education teacher, and I had a student that took a pretty bad tumble in class. Hit her head on the wall. Pretty clear concussion symptoms. So we get her stable. Call mom and dad to come get her. Dad shows up, and I start going through the concussion symptoms and treatments with him. Letting him know that a doctor's visit is probably in order. Blah blah blah. I keep going on and on about concussions. He just politely nods and thanks me. He takes daughter and leaves. And I see my principal standing behind me, and he can barely contain his laughter. Turns out dad is an emergency room doctor, and he just sat there while his daughter's gym teacher gave him medical advice. My father trying to explain to me how computers and the internet work. After he's called me over to figure out why his computer and internet aren't working. I've been an IT pro for around 12 over 13 years. My parents and some friends still do this shit to me. Every single time. Medieval Fire. 2002. Carney running the fencing game picks me out of the crowd for being tall and challenges me to a free bout against the master. Not a lot of people fence, so his gambit probably worked most of the time. But when he handed me that saber, I handed him his ass. When you are pretty good at something moderately obscure, these are the kinds of things you daydream happen to you. You, sir, have lived the dream. When you're pretty good at something, you get to tell people about it. When you're great at something, they'll tell you. While I was in high school, I was the reigning city fencing champion in both the youth and adult tournaments. My high school decided to do a school-wide fencing unit for 5th edition, and the coach they brought in to teach all of the students was my actual coach. During my classes, my coach naturally brought me up to help demonstrate the various moves. But for some reason one of my classmates didn't understand that I wasn't chosen at random. He started talking shit about how I looked like I didn't know what I was doing, and how he could probably kick my ass in a duel. Now, he actually was pretty good for a guy who'd never fenced before, and at the first opportunity to actually have a bout, he decided to have a go at me. I picked him apart and did not give up a single touch, and used the opportunity to practice my parry and ripostes. I admit, I took a bit of sadistic pleasure in thoroughly beating him. Afterwards, my coach made a point of congratulating the other guy for doing so well against the city champ, which changed his attitude considerably. By no means an expert, I'd probably rate in the 1500s. But I've played chess since I was a small child and was the best player in the middle school chess club. The guy who owned the pool hall me and my juvenile delinquent friends hung out in was talking about how dumb kids are these days and said he bet nobody in my group of hoodlums could play chess. I beat him soundly, then again in the rematch. I have been wrapping my family's Christmas presents since a very young age. It's the perfect activity to focus my crippling perfectionism with my overall anxiety-riddled self to create a beautiful masterpiece that would make anyone think twice about discovering the mysteries beneath the colorful paper and bows. I have just always loved to do it, and my mom was more than happy to not spend hours wrapping presents. Flash forward to the company Christmas party in my late 20s. We are split into teams to compete for random prizes. I'm up for the next game. I had no idea what I would be doing. I see a big cardboard box, a necktie, wrapping paper, scissors, tape and a bow. I know what's about to go down, and I'm here for it. It's a blind present wrapping challenge. My competitors start talking about how they can wrap presents fast, and I sit there, silently staring down that cardboard box knowing fully that the crowd is in for a show. Blindfolds, neckties, go on. We have a partner that isn't blindfolded that is supposed to give verbal directions. Just before the timer starts, I lean over to my partner and say quietly, "Are you ready for this?" And she just say, "What?" Exclamation mark. Bam. Timer starts. Partner tries to give directions at first and quickly realizes I'm way ahead of her. Before anyone else can even get their paper cut, I've got my box wrapped, taped, and bound. I even folded the ends and fancy to have the triangles meet. And that, my friends, is how I earned the most satisfying $10 Starbucks gift card of my life and earned the title of Rap Master. It happens a lot lately. I'm a microbiologist. So the number of people who have suddenly taken an interest in the subject in order to be confidently wrong about it is pretty upsetting. I'm no expert, but people never assume I can play pool. I grew up with my parents going to the pub, so as an early teen would play a lot of pool and got pretty good. There's been a number of occasions where I've got us a round of drinks or stuck it to some knob who's hogging the table. A beginning writer asked some advice about a basic drafting method, so I offered my point of view. Some tough guy decided to butt in and say that what I said was proof I'm not a real writer and it was obvious I would never be published. At that time, the second or third book in my trilogy was about to be released. I asked the guy not to tell my editor that I wasn't a real writer. My father-in-law challenged me about the capabilities of DVD. Specifically, he claimed that you could only have widescreen video, not 4:3, on a DVD disc. At the time I was employed as a DVD author. I authored the very first commercially available feature on Scenarist. I'm literally acknowledged in the first edition of DVD Demystified as an expert. I had already by that time personally authored literally hundreds of DVDs with 4:3 video. He knew all of the above at the time, yet still insisted I was wrong. My roommate who took a Psych 101 class at a prestigious university told me, a master's level therapist, that the movie Split with James McAvoy was an accurate depiction of multi-personality disorder. For most of 2020 so far, I'm an infectious disease expert, PhD from a microbiology and immunology program, and suddenly all my former high school classmates think they know more than me. They watch the news and learn a new vocabulary, and they bestow themselves a doctorate. My old roommate once told my uncle all about wine. She didn't know that he teaches classes about wine. He was a real good sport about it. The property management company for my homeowners association insisted that I had received emails that I never received. So I asked them to prove that I had received them. They said they are sure I received them. I'm a software engineer, and at the time I had just finished an enterprise email delivery system, like an in-house constant contact. I knew the rules of the CAN-SPAM Act by heart. I knew exactly how their system worked. So this real bitch of a property manager said I know how email works. You wouldn't understand. I mentally did the arrogant knuckle crack and started to explain, very methodically, how email delivery works and how they track various actions. I spent about 5 minutes detailing my credentials and why I was absolutely certain they had never sent me the emails they alleged I received. When I was finished, the HOA board just agreed to waive the fines. I used to play fighting games competitively all over the world. Never made one of the top slots, but I could usually hold my own. One of my best game was Super Street Fighter 2. Went to a bar by work one day and they just so happened to have an SNES set up with SF2. I order a drink, pick random characters and just duck around for a bit. Some guy comes in and immediately starts bragging to his date that has the best SF2 player ever. I asked him to play some games against me and offered to buy him a drink if he could beat 2 out of 3. 12 games later I'm completed hammered and he finally gives up and leaves. Still don't remember getting home that night. Color. It sounds weird, but anytime the color of something comes up and someone tries to correct me, I've been a commercial printing press operator for 20 years. I can spot very subtle differences in colors that most people can't. I have a coworker who one time looked at an internal web app we were building and he said the header isn't centered. He was right. It was off by like 2px. Even after he told me the direction it wasn't centered, I couldn't see it. This same guy can do the same thing with color. I really enjoy working with him, although it can be frustrating at times when I can't see what he sees. I'm an Academy Award winning sound mixer and almost everyone on film sets think they know my job better than me. Went to a couple's night once and the guy had wall-to-wall movies and framed posters in his basement. Super into it. Mentioned I used to be a movie nerd, but not so much anymore. He challenged us to a movie trivia board game. Kinda in a condescending way and I tried to politely decline. but my GF insisted we play. They went first. Missed the question, then we ran the table. Never heard from them again. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at push-ups, but I've worked in the fitness industry for 20 years and work out myself fairly regularly. Doing 20 push-ups isn't anything to me. I was at a party that was attended primarily by what I would call hipsters. A guy who had been drinking a fair amount challenged me to 20 push-ups as fast as possible for $20. I won and got $20. Then another said he would do the same bet if we went right away. I guess thinking I was kinda tired, I beat him and got another $20. A few minutes later another guy did the same bet. It was an easy $60. When we were having a couple drinks on Friday after work, I was challenged to a shooting by a colleague. Little did he know I've been shooting air rifles competitively ever since I was 13. Not to say I'm the greatest, but I've made it to the national finals for my country multiple times and came 3rd and 6th. I have all the special clothes and gear and such you need to make it to such a level. The next day, Saturday, we showed up to the range I always shoot at. It's not a day I usually train, so not many people recognize me. I beat his ass left, right and center that day. Out of 600 points, he scored about 200 to 250 if I remember correctly. I got about 580, which was about average of what I used to shoot. He had to buy me a fancy bottle of whiskey and now we shoot every 2 or 3 weeks together. Fun times. I'm sorry if it's hard to follow. English is my second language. Someone once tried to insist that our state didn't sell alcohol on Sundays. I've spent over a decade working in restaurants, and I'm also an alcoholic, which she knew about but still insisted on arguing with me about it. Not an expert, or even certified, but there's a specific kind of cargo parachute called a small airdrop training bundle. I can pack these correctly and by the book in less than 15 minutes. I was challenged by someone who had 5 years experience on me to see who could pack the most in an hour. I had 6, while he was trying to argue with a quality control guy who has been packing parachutes for 20 years over how correct he did step 3. I had a good day beating the guy who just so happened to be the worst rigger in the world. Solving a Rubik's Cube. My friend bet me $10 he could solve a cube faster than me. He solved it in 1 minute. Me, 30 seconds. Oh yes, I get to share this story. Semicolon. Me and my buddies in 7th/8th grade loved Goldeny. We had sleepovers where we spent every waking second from 5 PM until 9 AM the next day playing. No sleep at all. We were convinced we were the best, but had no real proof because we were only playing against people in our school. Big fish. Small pong type scenario. Semicolon. Fast forward about 6 or 7 years. My college holds a Goldeny tournament. Haven't played it in years, obviously. Well, there was a giant problem. My friends and I always played with inverted pitch on. The issue was that Goldeny, in multiplayer, doesn't let you select different control styles for different players. Everyone has to play with the same control scheme. So I was stuck with my controls being upside down. Semicolon. I still won the tournament. I got absolutely rocked in the Mario Kart tourney, but I had my Goldeny badge. Semicolon. Edit. I'm being told that I'm a big dummy and you can individually set the controls. So for some reason I wasn't able to win the tournament. But I remember the timed mines round was absolutely bonkers as a result. Semicolon. Also, I'm not changing my spelling mistake regarding a body of water. I'm going to date myself here, but I was an undergrad when the video game Halo was released. I never really played video games, but at the time I had a boyfriend, I'm a girl, who was really into it. We played a lot. Even went to some college-based tournament games and did well. Fast forward some years later, and my husband and I are at a house party. Someone turns on this box and was looking for a 4th for Halo. My husband volunteers me. The guys were visibly not thrilled but played along. I wiped the floor with them. Eventually they decided to team up 3 against me. Still destroyed them. The whole party ended up crowding around us to watch. It was a great night. Close bracket. Similar here. Loved Halo 1, 2, 3 and used to play religiously. Started playing one night after some beers with friends and beat the shit out of them 3-on-1. They thought I got lucky because with 3 people I have more targets to kill. Jumped online and whooped the other team with a personal K/D of 3220. No expert or master electrician, but had a guy demanding I put can lights in his house without cans. These were not the canless kind either. He just straight up didn't want to pay for cans. Even bought the lights by the pallet on some massive sale. Real cheap ass who wouldn't listen to anything I said about safety, legality, etc. I walked out and told him good luck with his inspection. Not quite this, but I tried to learn piano years ago. I bought a keyboard and learned the first movement of Moonlight Sonata, but it was literally all I could play. I had just started a new job as a chef in a fancy hotel. Had been there maybe a month and was at the Christmas party. I sat at a piano and the head chef pointed me out, laughing and said, "Look at Spliff Lizard. You can't play the piano." I thought I'll just act confident and play the only thing I can, so was like, "Yeah, I can." I've played for years and he said, "Oh really? Play Moonlight Sonata then." Couldn't have gone better. He was gobsmacked and I never told anyone there that I was actually crap at piano, except that one song, lol. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.